In every organization, people are considered the most valuable asset. So, in this part of our discussion, we will be emphasizing how companies attract the right talent, make effective hiring decisions, provide proper training, and ensure continuous development so employees can reach their full potential. Simply put, it's about building a strong workforce that drives success. So in this video, we're going to discuss about it all. So just sit back, relax, and please listen carefully. So, let's start with the first topic, which is the recruiting employees. Okay, so what is recruiting employees? According to the definition, it is a process of developing a pool of qualified applicants who are interested in working for the organization and from which the organization might reasonably select the best individual or individuals to hire for employment. So basically, it is a hiring or hiring an employee for a specific jobs. Okay, mostly or ang gumagawa talaga nitong role na to sa isang business is mostly ang HR, okay? Or human resource management. Okay? Sila yung nagre-recruit, sila yung nag-hire, sila yung nag-interview, and so on and so forth. Sila ang gumagawa when it comes to the employees or recruiting employees. So, there are two types of recruiting, which is the internal recruiting and the external recruiting. Let's discuss first the internal recruiting, okay? So internal recruiting, according to the definition itself, is the process of looking inside the organization for existing qualified employees who might be promoted to higher level positions. Okay, this internal recruiting is a action which is naghahanap sila ng employees na qualified for the higher positions. Or for example, there is a open position for executive secretary, okay? So they are going to find someone na existing na sa kanilang company who are qualified to that position or to the executive secretary. So, they are going to hire them as executive secretary or to promote them as executive secretary. Okay? Yun yung internal recruiting, which is inside or yung existing employees lang yung nire-recruit nila. Yun ang internal recruiting. So, there are two types of internal recruiting, which is the job posting and supervisory recommendations. Okay, so job posting. Job posting is simply a poster posted in any dimensions of the company or firm. Okay? So, again, internal recruiting is within the organizations or firm lamang. Okay? So, it is a poster which is posted sa bulletin board, sa walls, or sa HR office. Okay? It is posted so that the employees will be aware that there is a available position or available job for the specific department. Okay, so that is job posting. The HR will post a poster on any dimension or any place inside the firm so that the employees will be aware that there is a job opportunities or job position available. So the next one is the supervisory recommendation. Supervisory recommendation is simply a recommendation from the supervisor. We all knew that in every firm, in every institution, in every businesses, in every company, there is a supervisor who is operating or managing the operations inside the company or firm. So, in this case, the supervisor is recommending a staff to hire for the specific job available or availability. Okay? So, for example, I was recommended by the supervisor to promote as the executive secretary. Okay? So, that is the supervisory recommendations. So next one is the external recruiting. So external recruiting involves looking to sources outside the organization for prospective employees. Okay? If kanina ang internal recruiting natin is within the organization, within the firm, within the businesses, ngayon naman outside the organization or businesses naman tayo. Okay? Yun yung external recruiting, outside the organization or company, ang recruitment ng employees. So there are types of external recruiting, which is word of mouth recruiting, advertisement, employment agencies, college placement offices, and digital recruiting. For the word of mouth recruiting, it is a way that people delivering or conveying informations to people outside the company that there is a available job position in this specific area, in this specific company, or in the company. Okay? Ibig sabihin, meron silang inaatasan or in any like iba, kahit sinong member ng company is nag-spread ng information na mayroong available position sa isang kumpanya or sa kumpanya namin. If you're interested to apply, you may contact this and etc. etc. Okay? So that is a word of mouth recruiting, which is galing mismo sa mga employees ang tawag dito ang information, and then kino-convey nila or dinidisseminate nila outside the organization para magkaroon ng employees or applicants. Okay? That is a word of mouth recruiting. Next is the advertisement. Advertisement is simply advertising that there is a available job position on a specific company. They can do it like such as brochures, what ano pa ba? Brochures, posters, billboards, or kahit anong mga pwedeng gamitin as a tool para magkaroon ng advertisement that there is a job position available in the specific company or in the company. Okay? So that is the advertisement. Okay, next is the employment agency. So in every country, there is an organization or an agencies na merong mga qualified applicants into different fields. Okay? So ang ginagawa ng ibang mga kumpanya is nag-contact sila doon sa employment agencies na yon, and then sinasabi lang nila kung ano yung kailangan nilang position, kailangan nilang tao na i-hire sa kanilang kumpanya, and then the employment agencies will give them a person na pasok or fit for that job. Okay? So yun yung yung function ng employment agencies, which is meron silang mga reserve employees or reserve applicants para if ever na may mag-contact sa kanilang company, meron silang mabibigay or ma-recommend na applicants. Okay?
So for our next topic, it is internships. So internships are not just about helping students gain experience, they also benefit companies. So they mix the idea of hiring from the outside, which is external recruiting, and developing talent from within, which is internal recruiting. So internships basically is a temporary help for companies. Interns work for a short time, which helps the company with extra tasks or projects. So there's this thing that companies do, which is the try before you buy. Companies use internships to see how good someone is without committing right away. So as we all know, internship is temporary, so there's not much allotted time when it comes to internships. So there's another thing, which is no rejection pressure. So basically, may choice yung company to hire or not hire the intern na naka-assign sa kanila. So for example, as a financial management student, there's a big possibility that I will be assigned on banks. So for example, na-assign ako as an intern of BPI. So BPI has the power to decide whether to hire me in the future after I graduate or not. So, but it is still a win-win situation, because if the intern doesn't fit the expectations of the company, then the intern will have more opportunities sa ibang company that will fit his or her type of work. So, and there's also an opportunity given to interns from the company, which is mabibigyan sila agad ng advance work or position in the company if that intern is a perfect fit for the company. Students gain real-world experience while companies get to test the potential future of employees. So next is the realistic job previews. A realistic job preview is when a company gives job applicants the true picture of what a job is like, both the good and the bad, before they are hired. So why it is needed? In the past, recruiters made jobs sound too exciting and glamorous. New hires often discovered that the job was actually boring, repetitive, or difficult, which led to unhappiness and quitting. So basically, realistic job preview is pinapakita siya ng mga companies sa kanilang applicants. Pinapakita yung totoong job, kung ano yung ginagawa within their companies, to not exceed expectations from their applicants. So pinapakita kung ano yung totoong magiging trabaho ng applicants, so that walang maling expectations na ma-receive yung applicants from the company. So for example, applicants are shown honest information about the job through videos, brochures, online content, or by observing the job directly. So a big example is that at Disney World, applicants must watch a video explaining strict rules and tough working conditions before applying. So some applicants decide not to apply after seeing the reality, which prevents future disappointments. Those who still choose to join already know what to expect, so they are more satisfied with the job and loyal to the company. Evaluating the recruitment process. So the final issue to discuss is how an organization might go about evaluating its recruiting efforts. So basically, companies use multiple metrics to evaluate their recruitment process when it comes to their companies. So several industry leaders suggest that these metrics should include time to fill a position, vacancy rates, turnover rates, selection ratios, quality of hire, and retention rates. So overall metric is the recruitment cost ratio, which includes all the costs associated with new hire, from advertising through recruiter, salaries, and to compensation for the new hire. So for example, An organization might learn that external recruiting using agency A results in less time to fill a clerical position, higher retention rates, higher quality hires, and so on when compared to another agency. So this basically suggests that the organization should focus its recruiting efforts for clerical position on agency A in the future. Next is the selection process. So after the recruiting process has identified a pool of qualified applicants, it is time to begin the selection process. So selection is concerned with identifying the best candidate or candidates for a job from among the pool of qualified applicants developed during the recruiting process. So there are three main steps to through the selection process. So the first is gathering information. So they collect details about each applicants in the hiring pool, look at their knowledge, skills, and abilities, plus education, work experience, and also attitude. So managers may also consider their impressions of how well the applicant might succeed. Number two is evaluating applicants. They compare applicants against standards or recruitments for the job. So standards can be clear, for example, typing speed, years of experience, or it can be more subjective. Example is personality fit. Sometimes decisions are tricky. Does more than required experience automatically mean better, or is meeting the standard enough? So next is making the hiring decision. So decide who will be offered the job. So the approach depends on the situation. So first is mass hiring. For example, factory workers, restaurant trainees. So they pick everyone who meets the requirements. So for the single key role, on the other hand, HR, director marketing, so they narrow it down to the best individual after ranking candidates in case the top choice declines. So for critical positions, which is the jobs that give competitive advantage, they use the extra steps like senior management interviews. It is more detailed about expectations and also put extra into choosing the best person. Next is the basic selection criteria when it comes to education and experience. So when companies evaluate job applicants, education and experience are two of the most common things they look at. So for the education, it refers to formal training, which is school, college, university, or technical programs. So different jobs needs different education levels. Some only need a high school diploma, and others require a college degree or even advanced degrees like master's degree and doctoral degree or PhD degree. So sometimes any major is acceptable, but other jobs require a specified field of study. For example, engineering, HR, and languages. So second is experience. Refers to time spent working in general or in a specific field. Shows that a person is familiar with work and has developed certain skills. It can be specific experience. For example, a director of advertising must have strong advertising background. General experience is simply having worked full-time for several years might be enough. So no experience, some entry-level jobs doesn't require prior work at all. So next is skills and abilities. When hiring, companies also look at an applicant's skills and abilities. This can be easier or harder to measure depending on what they are. So first is easy to measure skills. So some skills are clear and objective to test, example typing speed or spatial ability. Next is harder to measure skill. So with more jobs requiring teamwork, companies also look at communication skills, ability to work in a team, conflict management, or collaboration. So next is the basic selection criteria for personal characteristics and fit. So besides education, experience, and skills, companies also look at the applicant's personality and values when making hiring decisions. So for personal characteristics, traits like friendliness, perseverance, and ability to work with others are important. These are hard to measure because they rely on interviews and judgment. Today, many companies use the Big Five personality traits as more reliable way. So there's this thing called neuroticism, which is tendency towards stress, anxiety. Lower is usually better. So extroversion, being outgoing and sociable, openness, being curious and open to new ideas, agreeableness, being cooperative and kind, lastly, conscientiousness, or being dependable and detail-oriented. So research shows these traits often predict job success better than older personality tests. So lastly is hiring for fit. So fit means hiring someone who matches the company's culture, values, and personality style, not just technical skills. For example, a company might choose a candidate whose values align to teamwork and innovation, even if another applicant has slightly stronger technical skills. So there are two types of fit, which is job fit, based on skills and abilities, and it is measurable. And the second one is organizational fit, which is based on values and personality, which is hard to measure. Sometimes companies believe that skills can be taught, but fit cannot. So they prioritize hiring people who fit well with the team and culture.
Good day, I am Maria Trisha Felina Di Calunsan, and I'm going to tackle about 7-3 Popular selection techniques. Popular selection techniques are essential tools in human resource management to identify the most suitable candidates for a position. These methods provide employers with structured ways to assess applicants beyond resumes, ensuring that job placements are based on skills, qualifications, and potential performance. By applying these techniques, organization can improve hiring accuracy, reduce turnover, and match employees effectively to job requirements. Next, let us discuss first Figure 7.3, which illustrates a step-by-step selection process used by an organization in screening job applicants. It begins with applications and background checks to ensure minimum qualifications. Next, candidates undergo employment tests to measure ability and skills, followed by an interview to assess personality and job fit. After that, references and recommendations are checked for credibility, and physical examinations confirm fitness for the role. Finally, successful applicants receive a selection decision or job offer, completing the process. This structured approach ensures only the most qualified candidates are hired. Now let us delve deeper into our discussion 7-3A, which talks about applications and background checks. Applications and background checks are the initial steps in the employee selection process. Employers use these tools to gather important information about applicants, including education, work history, and personal background. These checks help determine if candidates meet basic qualification and provide an initial filter before moving to more advanced selection techniques. The very first step in most selection systems is to ask applicants to complete an employment application or an application blank. An employment application asks individuals for various facts and information pertaining to their personal background. An application blank, when used in typical selection systems, provides a quick and inexpensive mechanism for gathering several kinds of objective information about an individual that can be easily verified. In short, employment application, it is a standard form completed by all applicants that collects consistent data on personal details, work experience, and qualifications. It provides a uniform basis for comparing. There are a number of innovations have extended the usefulness of application blanks, including the following. Weighted application blank relies on numerical indices to determine the relative importance of various personal factors for predicting a person's ability to perform a job effectively. In short, weighted application blank, it is a specialized application form where different pieces of applicant information, example, experience, education, skills, are assigned scores or ratings. It is used to predict job performance statistically and screen candidates more effectively. Second, biodata application or blanks focus on the same type of information that is found in a regular application but go into more complex and detailed assessments about the background. Biodata application blank, it is a detailed version of the application form that includes questions about applicants' background, life experiences, and achievements. This technique assumes that past behavior and experiences can predict future job success. Now let's talk about 7-3, which deals with employment test. Another popular selection technique used by many organizations is an employment test, or a device for measuring the characteristics of an individual. These characteristics may include personality, intelligence, or aptitude. Although employment tests are generally traditional question and answer exercise that applicants complete on a paper or online, the courts consider any device used to make an employment decisions, including interviews, to be a test. Typically, though, employment tests per se are either on a paper or computer administered. For a paper test, the organization scores the employment itself or sends it to the agency from which it acquired the test for scoring. For a computer-administered test, the applicant enters answer to question via keyboard and mouse. Employment tests are tools used by organizations to evaluate candidates' suitability for specific jobs. These tests help measure various abilities, personality traits, and skills relevant to job performance. Their primary goal is to ensure a fair and objective selection process. In a nutshell, an employment test is a standardized procedure designed to assess a candidate's job-related abilities, knowledge, and other attributes. These tests help employers predict future job performance and reduce hiring risk. They can take many forms, including written, performance, and psychological assessments. Different types of employment tests are commonly used. Before identifying them, however, we want to distinguish aptitude test from achievement test. These terms often refer to how the test is used rather than the nature of the test. Aptitude tests focus on predicting future performance. Achievement tests, on the other hand, focus on the mastery of some set of learned skills. For example, keyboarding tests are usually seen as achievement tests because they focus on whether an applicant has basic proficiency or mastery in using a keyboard. Cognitive ability tests are seen as aptitude tests because they focus on the question of whether the person will be able to perform some specific task in the future. Cognitive ability test measures general mental capabilities such as reasoning, problem solving, and learning aptitude. It often includes subtests addressing specific skills like verbal and quantitative reasoning. These tests are good predictors of overall job performance. Cognitive ability test measures mental skills. The applicant is not required to do anything physical, only to demonstrate some type of knowledge. Therefore, knowing how a specific tool is used reflects a cognitive ability. Other cognitive abilities includes vocabulary and reading comprehension, or verbal ability. It assesses how well candidates understand, interpret, and use language. Vocabulary tests focus on word knowledge, while reading comprehensions measures the ability to understand and analyze written materials. Both are essential for rules requiring strong comm skills. Next, mathematics or quantitative ability. It is a test to evaluate numerical reasoning and problem solving through basic to intermediate math tasks. They measure how well individuals can work with numbers, make calculations, and understand quantitative data. These skills are critical for jobs involving finance, analysis, or technical tasks. Third, lyrical ability test. Check for skills such as alphabetizing names and distinguish between similars or different words. They assess attention to detail, accuracy, and organizational skills needed for administrative and clerical work. This test ensures candidates can handle routine office tasks efficiently. Next is spatial relation test. Measures the ability to visualize and manipulate objects mentally. They are used to evaluate skills important in roles involving design, engineering, or navigation. This ability is key for understanding how parts fit together or how objects move in space. Let's continue our discussion with psychomotor ability test. Measures physical abilities such as strength, eye and hand coordination, and manual dexterity. Psychomotor ability tests evaluate coordination between cognitive functions and physical movements, such as hand and eye coordination and dexterity. They are often used for jobs requiring precise physical tasks or machinery operation. These tests help predict performance in roles involving fine or gross motor skills. Next, personality test measure traits or tendency to act that are relative and changing in a person. Personality tests assess enduring traits and behavioral tendencies that affects workplace behavior. They help employers understand how candidates might interact with others and fit into organizational culture. These evaluations contribute to predicting job satisfaction and team compatibility. Third, the self-report inventory is a paper and pencil measure in which an applicant responds to a series of statements that might or might not apply to him or her. Self-report inventories are questionnaires where individuals rate their own behaviors, feelings, and attitudes. They provide insights into personality traits, motivation, and emotional states. Despite their subjective nature, these inventories offer valuable information for candidate assessment. Next, we have the projective technique involves showing an individual an ambiguous stimulus such as an ink blot or a fuzzy picture and then ask what he or she sees. Projective technique used ambiguous stimuli like ink blots or pictures to elicit responses that reveal unconsciousness aspect of personality. They aim to uncover hidden emotions, motives, and conflicts not easily accessible through direct questioning. These tests require expert interpretation and complement other assessment methods. Next, integrity test. An integrity test attempts to assess an applicant's moral character and honesty. Integrity tests are designed to predict a candidate's tendency towards honesty and reliability in the workplace. They often assess attitudes towards theft, rule-breaking, and ethical behavior. Employees use these tests to reduce risk related to dishonest and counterproductive conduct.
7-3C of the popular selection technique is the work simulations, wherein the interviewer will require applicants to perform task or job-related activities that simulate or represents the actual work for which the person is being considered. From the word itself, the simulations, meaning imitating or acting a certain situations or process. In job hiring, some HR managers or interviewer will not only assess your resume, but they will also or ask you several job related questions, but they will also require you to perform a work simulations or you will imitate a certain work na inline sa work na yun nire-require or ina-applyan mo. One reason kung bakit nila ito ginagawa is para mas ma-assess nila yung credibility mo whether or not requalified ka sa ina-applyan mo. Some simulations na pina-perform is yung in-basket exercises wherein may mga memos, letters, and notes yung isusort and gagawan ng response. There are different types of interviews that are commonly encountered. First is the structured employment interview wherein dito may mga list na standard questions na i-ask during interview. The questions used in this interview is carefully studied based on the job requirement or descriptions. Then, those questions will be used to different job applicants. In other words, pare-parehas yung mga tanong na gagamitin ng interviewer pag-assess sa mga applicants. Ginagawa nila ito para ma-achieve nila yung consistency among interviews. Next is the semi-structured employment interview. Major or key questions are prepared ahead of time to be asked to the applicants. May mga major questions na prepared in advance na itatanong sa mga applicants, but then the interviewer also has the right to add follow-up questions or additional questions para mas ma-examine yung credibility na sagot ng mga applicants. Next is the unstructured employment interview. The interviewer may have a general idea about or what she or he wants to learn about the job applicants. Instead na may mga list ng questions sa interview na ito, mostly ng mga tanong is nakabase sa sagot ng mga applicants. That is why malawak nga yung sakop ng type ng interview na ito. Since wala namang masyadong pina-follow ng mga structured questions. Situational interview. In this type of interview, the applicants were asked about specific situations by the interviewer to see how the applicant will react or address the certain situations. Mostly ng mga situation na tinatanong is nangyari na. But, may ibang interviewer din na ina-ask or tinatanong ang applicant to view a certain or imagine a certain scenario na hindi pa nangyayari. Studies were conducted regarding these different types of interviews. Research shows that the situational interview is better at predicting future job performance than any traditional interviews. That is why unti-unti na rin nagagain ng popularity itong type ng interview among other interviewers. But there are still some interviewers who preferred unstructured type of interview since mas malawak ang scope ng interview ng unstructured, mas nakakagather sila ng useful information that they could use to decide as to whether or not hire a certain applicant. But then again, evidence shows that structured interview is better at predicting subsequent job performance or while the situational interview, gaya na sinabi kanina, is better at predicting future job performance. Hindi naman talaga napipredict ng mga interviews yung performance mo if ever you were hired since some interviewee or applicants were good at answering questions but they are not that quite good in the actual work. But these interviews are effective in assessing the applicant's interpersonal skill. The Supreme Court in Watson, Fort Worth Bank and Trust stated that interviews used for making selection decisions had the same requirements concerning demonstrating job relatedness as did any other selection technique. However, it is more difficult to establish job relatedness of interviews partly because of interview errors. Mostly of these errors are